Hello and welcome to the Miraculous Lightworkers channel, your go-to place for all things about lightworkers and enlightenment. Today I want to share with you a message about Native American spirituality. The reason I'm doing this is because I have 4 nations of Native American blood in my particular lineage, and I think it's really important as lightworkers to understand where to bring in the wisdom of Indigenous peoples into our practices and how that can help us in our spiritual journey. So I'm going to show you a picture here of the man I'm going to share with you the wisdom of his, actually. His name is Chief Arvol Looking Horse. Let's see if I can get it close for you. He's a Native American elder from one of the tribes that I have in my particular bloodline. He is a really powerful teacher to me. I'm going to share with you and I'm going to comment as I go. And I'm going to close out at the end with the Native American 10 Commandments. Much as there's a biblical 10 Commandments, there is a constitution as such for Native American peoples also. Chief Arvol Looking Horse issued this message, I believe in 2019. He's the 19th generation keeper of the sacred white buffalo calf pipe. If you don't know what that is, I encourage you to look it up. There's not very many of the Native elders who are still carrying those bundles and those pipes and that medicine, and their work right now on this planet is incredibly important. There was an incident not so very long ago that it occurred with carrying by hand on foot across this country a sacred bundle to the United Nations. And they tried to help create peace in this country because this is their land. This is our land. Okay. I have, like I said, 4 nations. So my Native American roots really have guided me through much of my spiritual journey and are the reason why I am a protector of the water and a protector of the earth and a protector of the Sky Nation. All of these things require us to hold that sacred space because right now they're all under fire. And our dependence upon them is the continuity of our species. You know, if we don't speak for the ones that can't speak, the creature teachers, the elements, then they won't be able to support us and keep the web of life connected any longer. We're getting to that point where we have so much of our water poisoned, so much of the land degraded that it's become toxic in most urban centers. You know, the soil is damaged to the point that it can't support life like it should. Our web of life with the animals has been disrupted to such a great degree that those keystone species are unable to do their jobs, and it's unraveling. We have to make a concerted effort to protect what is sacred. All right, so Chief Arvol Looking Horse is the author of White Buffalo Teachings, a tireless advocate of maintaining traditional spiritual practices. Chief Looking Horse is a member of Bigfoot Riders, which memorializes the massacre of Bigfoot's band at Wounded Knee. This is his statement, and so I'll speak it the way that he wrote it, all right? I, Chief Arvol Looking Horse of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota Nations, ask you to understand an Indigenous perspective on what has happened in America, what we call Turtle Island. My words seek to unite the global community through a message from our sacred ceremonies to unite spiritually, each in our own ways of beliefs in the Creator. We have been warned from ancient prophecies of these times we live in today, but have also been given a very important message about a solution to turn these terrible times. To understand the depth of this message, you must recognize the importance of sacred sites and realize the interconnectedness of what is happening today in reflection of the continued massacres that are occurring on other lands and our own Americas. I've been learning about these important issues since the age of 12 when I received the sacred white buffalo calf pipe bundle and its teachings. Our people have strived to protect sacred sites from the beginning of time. These places have been violated for centuries and have brought us to the predicament that we are in at the global level. Look around you. Our Mother Earth is very ill from these violations, and we are on the brink of destroying the possibility of a healthy and nurturing survival for generations to come, our children's children. Our ancestors have been trying to protect our sacred site called the Sacred Black Hills in South Dakota, which they refer to as the heart of everything that is, from continued violations. Our ancestors never saw a satellite view of this site, but now that those pictures are available, we see that it is in the shape of a heart. And when fast forwarded, it looks like a heart pumping. The Dene have been protecting Big Mountain, calling it the liver of the earth, and we are suffering and going to suffer more from the extraction of the coal there and the poisoning processes used in doing so. The Aborigines have warned of the contaminating effects of global warming on the coral reefs, which they see as Mother Earth's blood purifier. The indigenous people of the rainforest say that the rainforests are the lungs of the planet and need protection. The Gwich'in Nation in Alaska has had to face oil drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge coastal plain, also known to the Gwich'in as where life begins. The coastal plain is the birthplace of many forms of animal nations. The death of these animal nations will destroy indigenous nations in this territory. As these destructive developments continue all over the world, we will witness many more extinct animal, plant, and human nations because of mankind's misuse of power and their lack of understanding the balance of life. The indigenous people warn that these destructive developments will cause havoc globally. There are many, many more indigenous teachings and knowledge about Mother Earth's sacred sites, her chakras, and connections to our spirit that will surely affect our future generations. There needs to be a fast move toward other forms of energy that are safe for all nations upon Mother Earth. We need to understand the types of minds that are continuing to destroy the spirit of our whole global community. Unless we do this, the powers of destruction will overwhelm us. Our ancestors foretold that water would someday be for sale. Back then, this was hard to believe, since the water was so plentiful, so pure, and so full of energy, nutrition, and spirit. Today, we have to buy pure water, and even then, the nutritional minerals have been taken out. It's just empty liquid. Someday, water will be like gold, too expensive to afford. Not everyone will have the right to drink safe water. We fail to appreciate the honor our sacred sites, ripping out the minerals and gifts that lay underneath them, as if Mother Earth were simply a resource instead of the source of life itself. Attacking nations and using more resources to carry out destruction in the name of peace is not the answer. We need to understand how all these decisions affect the global nation. We will not be immune to its repercussions. Allowing continual contamination of our food and land is affecting the way we think. A disease of the mind has set in world leaders, and many members of our global community with their belief that a solution of retaliation and destruction of peoples will bring peace. In our prophecies, it is told that we are now at the crossroads, either unite spiritually as a global nation or be faced with chaos, disasters, diseases, and tears from our relatives' eyes. We are the only species that is destroying the source of life, meaning Mother Earth, in the name of power, mineral resources, and ownership of land. Using chemicals and methods of warfare that are doing irreversible damage. As Mother Earth is becoming tired and cannot sustain any more impacts of war. I ask you to join me on this endeavor. Our vision is for the peoples of all continents, regardless of their beliefs in the Creator, to come together as one at their sacred sites to pray and meditate and commune with one another, thus promoting an energy shift to heal our Mother Earth and achieve a universal consciousness toward attaining peace. As each day passes, I ask all nations to begin a global effort and remember to give thanks for the sacred food that has been gifted to us by our Mother Earth, so the nutritional energy of medicine can be guided to heal our minds and spirits. This new millennium will usher in an age of harmony, or it will bring the end of life as we know it. Starvation, war, and toxic waste have been the hallmark of the great myth of progress and development that ruled the last millennium. To us, as caretakers of the heart of Mother Earth, falls the responsibilities of turning back the powers of destruction. You yourself are the one who must decide. You alone, and only you, can make this crucial choice to walk in honor or to dishonor your relatives. On your decision depends the fate of the entire world. Each of us is put here in this time and this place to personally decide the future of humankind. Do you think the Creator would create unnecessary people in a time of such terrible danger? Know that you yourself are essential to this world. Understand both the blessing and the burden of that. You yourself are desperately needed to save the soul of this world. Did you think you were put here for something less? In a sacred hoop of life, there is no beginning and no ending. And he speaks here in Lakota. Ota Woyawaste, Mitakuye Oyasin Oyate. Ohana. Ohana is Hawaiian. Standing in prayers, this is, I believe that the Ohana part was put here actually by the person who reposted this after the fact as a call to action, sort of an address. Standing in prayers and unity for all sacred life upon our precious Mother Earth, all sacred nations, all father skies, all sacred waters, all sacred life. We pray together in unity, Ohana. This is so packed that I can only hope to do justice to what Chief Looking Horse was trying to convey here. But I am going to speak to a couple of these point by point, okay? He's asking, call to action, to unite spiritually together, saying, look, we need you to overcome the idea of separateness based on what you think you believe as being separate. We were all created by the same Creator. You have a different name for him, so do I. We're trying to honor him. Honoring him means we don't go out and destroy what he gave us, including each other. It's like a call for peace here, yeah? Through prayer, through uniting. Okay, he's talking about the ancient prophecies that have come down through the generations to try and tell us about what's going to happen. These exist and have been kept very quiet in a lot of nations because of fear. Some of the things actually died with the elders when the massacres happened, and so there was not an opportunity to pass these things down. So here we are trying to piece together what we have left, and there are many prophecies throughout the world. It's not just Indigenous peoples in the Americas that are telling us about the times we have come to now. They tried to prepare us for this. Oh, I'm going to get emotional. And we're at that moment now. There's no more time left to waste. If we don't come together, the destruction will be great, in the worst sense of the word. It will be incredible. It's already begun. I came to A Course in Miracles a long time. This is the other part of my channel that I teach on, is the Course in Miracles. A long time after being a student of prophecy. Long before I understood the Bible as a book of prophecy, I was receiving prophecy from my elders, from the ancestor spirits that walk with me. They would protect me and guide me to things that would teach me what I needed to know about this coming time so that I could be here now as a voice for them and for you, like to bridge. There is a lot of prophecy available. I encourage you to look on your own. I'm not going to tell you directly which ones to go for because your spirit can't receive them all directly at one time. Look into prophecy if you want to understand what's happening right now, and the clarity will come. These times were foretold. This is not a surprise to my ancestors, to my relatives. This was expected. Some of them refer to this as the mystery egg because what is inside the egg has come to the point of gestation that it must be birthed, but we don't know what will come out. The egg is cracking, and what emerges should be our gift into the next stage of humanity's unfolding. But we can see very clearly that there is a lot of confusion in the world right now about the direction that this is going to go in. I'm going to go ahead and continue on here. So when he's talking about Turtle Island, I think this is really important for people to understand. They're saying from this place, which has a very specific and special meaning, it's home and it's protected as the covering of a turtle shell. There's something very special and specific coming from Turtle Island, from the native peoples of Turtle Island as a gift to all of humanity. They've been the wisdom keepers since the beginning. They were given these gifts of wisdom, and they keep them in what they call medicine bundles and the teachings that they pass forward, and they only give them to specific people to carry that knowledge and wisdom because they're trusted and they're chosen to do that. Okay? I want to touch also on the importance of recognizing the sacred sites. Okay. There are indigenous peoples all around the world. Here in Hawaii, we have sacred mana, our mountains, and they have been used as platforms for telescopes. And a lot of people think, in the name of science, that that is perfectly acceptable. Some people have a problem with it, some people don't. I am a protector of the sacred, so I find it to be reprehensible the way that these sites of worship have been desecrated, because they were taken out of the hands of the ones who were told to protect them, denied them access to go to the place of worship, to make offerings, to commune with Creator, to ask for the blessings upon this place, upon all the world. These particular people who were given this particular mission, this job, being denied that has disconnected them and created such turmoil, because it's their job to hold the sacred space. And in Hawaii, particularly, we are in a place of power that new life is birthed from here through the magma that creates new land, and we literally watch it happening. We have several places that are considered so sacred, but are used as platforms for science or tourist destinations. It's not a problem up until the point where you're actually desecrating the area, because the people going there do not understand what they're doing by denying access, and by going into these places as a sort of thrill-seeking kind of experience, and dishonoring the area in multiple ways. Instead of coming together the way that Chief Looking Horse was speaking about it, he was saying, we want you to go to these places. We want you to come together. We want you to commune in the Holy Spirit, in that energy and essence of Creator's love, to preserve the planet, to honor it. That you're not here as some tourist on vacation. This is, if you can't honor it and protect it and understand what's sacred and beautiful about it, at least don't damage it. My daughter has a song on one of her playlists that she plays occasionally, and it really is like so incredibly powerful. It says, this is not the world that we came for. How does it, I can't not getting the lyrics correct, but it says, we don't even know what to do with this. You've handed us a world that is so utterly disrupted and damaged that we're not even sure what to do with this. We don't expect you to fix every problem, but if you don't know how to fix the problems that you're creating, at least stop creating more problems. It's like they have to catch up with what all of these previous generations sort of inadvertently caused to happen through not being mindful, not connecting with our brothers and sisters in the spirit of unity, in what Hawaiians call aloha. In honoring the culture, my host culture here where I live now, I think it's really important to explain that aloha is not just hello and goodbye, but it is the essence of unity. Alo is you and I connecting here and now in this now moment. Ha is the breath of life and the experiencing of the power that is in this moment that we have to co-create, that we have to heal. that we have to make inroads to the progress that will help heal our planet and our people, our hearts, our minds, our spirits, our bodies, etc. Here on our island of Maui, we have a sacred mountain called Haleakala, and that means the house of the sun. There is entire cultural belief wrapped up in that. And it goes back through the generations. It's incredibly important that we try to protect this place, and people do all the time. We go and we try to stop, destruction and desecration. There's been a lot of political active kind of movements where people have to stop the building of new telescopes on the Mauna because there's already telescopes up there. And if they're just going to keep sort of packing more and more and more on the mountain and pushing Native peoples back further and further and trying to create this sort of tourist feel about it. It's not that we don't love tourists, okay? We don't love desecration though. And I connect myself at a heart level with the Hawaiian people because it is my kuleana also understanding as a protector of what's sacred of life on this planet, that we are the same in that way. He speaks about this here later in the article about how it's not just it's not just a duty. There's a privilege to be honored with the opportunity to have life at this epic moment in human history. Please don't underestimate this. We are living in the moment. We are, heard it said before, we are the answer to our ancestors' prayers. So we have to rise to the occasion of that energy and say, yes, I know I am the answer to my ancestors' prayers. Why? Because I come and I protect what will add to the longevity of life on this planet through trying to stop the poisoning of the air, the water, the soil, the people, because it's affecting our minds. Those chemicals are getting into us. And it takes a lot of purification to be able to bring in the light and bring it out. The more that we accumulate toxins in our system that we don't see, and so we don't perceive how much we're actually polluting our own body. Those things do things to us that make us incapable of bringing in the light and being channels for our brothers and sisters to bring this forward. Some of the things are the toxins that come from insecticides, fungicides, herbicides. These are ubiquitous throughout our foods, okay? There's poisons in the air, things used for all sorts of purposes. In the water, the fluoridation, it actually calcifies your pineal gland. And your pineal gland is a real organ in the center of your brain, and it's part of where we receive so that we can bring it forward. All right? Protecting what is sacred on this planet. The reason why Native peoples, Indigenous peoples everywhere fight so hard for this is because of what my Cherokee ancestors would speak about, which is we are looking at how we can protect everything moving forward into the next 7 generations. That's how much responsibility, kuleana is what Hawaiians call this, we have. We have to make sure, not just for us, but for the continuity of grandchildren that we will never live to see, that the planet that they inherit is capable of sustaining life as it was for us. There's a principle here. Hawaiians and Native peoples in the Americas have the same principle, and it's in many other cultures as well, but these are the ones where I'm speaking to directly right now, which is when I borrow something, which is how we regard our planet, I return it better than I found it. I don't borrow something from my neighbor or my grandchildren whom I've not met yet and return it in worse condition. We understand that there's a responsibility there, a powerful responsibility, and that we have to protect each other. This is how we be our brothers and sisters keepers. I take care of you because I regard you as I regard myself. You're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? Golden rule, you never treat somebody a way you don't want to be treated, right? Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It's the same thing even with people down through the generations who you've never met yet. The wise man plants the tree of which he knows he will never enjoy the shade of. Why? Because you're seeding into the future, not selfishly. This is how we perpetuate goodness. And you have no idea how many people throughout history have done that for you, that you don't even have gratitude for what they've done, that they've tried to protect you. You don't know their name, just as many of our grandchildren won't know our name. But we do it for them as it was done for us. It's part of perpetuating the goodness of spirit in this world. Okay, so I just want to continue forward with responding to what Chief Looking Horse was saying in his article here, in his statement. They're talking about how different parts of our planet are regarded as physical body parts likened to that of a human being. And in the place where he lives, in South Dakota, that is, they're working on protecting the water rights there. Okay. And they're talking about how they call it the heart of everything it is. It's like the water is like the blood that's pumping through the heart. Okay. You have the Dene people protecting Big Mountain, calling it the liver of the earth. So it's like a detoxifying place. Many places have been desecrated very mindlessly through mining and such, and it's poisoned the earth, it's poisoned the air, it's poisoned the water, and Indigenous people have suffered some really horrific health problems because of those problems that were created, that were nothing of their doing. They tried to protect the land, but their warnings were not heeded. Okay, you have other people here talking, Aborigines talking about, okay, and this is from Australia, they're speaking of how the coral reefs are like Mother Earth's blood purifier. Okay, I'm surrounded by coral reefs, and we see the degradation of the reefs through agricultural runoff and all sorts of odd chemicals and things, which are creating chain reactions that we can't even conceive of how damaging it's been. But we do have some things like they're trying to take out certain types of sunscreen, for instance, because it was choking the coral. Coral gets choked, we lose our protection from incoming waves on an island as small as our island, in this sacred archipelago here in the heart of the Pacific, a very powerful ley line. That is incredibly important. I cannot stress it enough. It protects us. It purifies all of the human waste that goes out. It feeds our ecosystem, our fish, everything from the plankton up to, the keystone species like sharks and whales. dolphins, etc. All these really incredibly important animals to keep the web of life from unraveling. I don't think people understand, because a lot of people have never experienced it firsthand. I've spent thousands of hours in the ocean here, and I've seen places that went from being thriving, healthy ecosystems go to dead zones, dead coral, nothing but rubble on the ocean floor because nothing can keep building. No fish can be supported in those areas. It's not normal to go out and find an area where no fish can survive, but I've seen it time and again. And it's really, it's an eye-opener. It's a reality check. This is the planet that we've inherited and we've perpetuated, and we're a part of this. We have to be responsible and protect what's sacred. They're talking about South Americans here, talking about the rainforest being the lungs of the planet. And we obviously, basically everybody must have heard at this point that there's an incredible amount of deforestation that has occurred for things like cattle grazing, things like this. And when they do this, they're literally eliminating complete ecosystems where we could have had the cures for all sorts of things. But it's not even coming down to what's important for human health so much as when you destroy an entire ecosystem, it's not stopping there. It continues down the line, and people don't understand how you affect one thing this way, you take out thousands of acres of forest, burn them to the ground, and introduce cattle, heavy hoof stock. You're creating the complete destruction of a ecosystem, but you're also creating erosion that goes down into the rivers and chokes out the fish. It goes down into the ocean, and it starts disrupting ecosystems there. This is something that I really honor and find beautiful about Hawaiian culture, is that they knew through ahupua'a systems, is what they would call it, that there was these slices like spokes on a wheel that come down from the mana down to the ocean, and everything within that zone was very carefully guarded. It was very carefully monitored. If anything was out of sorts, the scouts, the younger ones, would go and they would tell the older ones, look, there's a problem here. This part of the ecosystem is out of balance. There's not as many fish in this area, or, this particular thing is being overgrown. Everything was very carefully stewarded. Certain areas were carved out for, agriculture, like kalo, but they had a balance that created stability throughout the whole island, because each area was very carefully monitored. When they took that away, that's where we have come across some really astoundingly horrible practices with misuse of water, water rights violations, desecration of graves. They just found more this last week. They were trying to put in more infrastructure, and this happens astoundingly commonly. They want to put in more agriculture or more infrastructure, and they disrupt more bones. And I think to an outsider that might seem like not the hugest big deal in the world, but if that is your relative on land that your ancestors were responsible for caretaking, that's still your family. And there's a fierce sort of protectiveness about that. But because of the way that the land has been redistributed, it's caused this horrible ache in the people, which has turned into generational trauma, much as it has for my native peoples on the mainland of Turtle Island. I want to go ahead and just continue here, moving forward. We have to understand how doing that, those kinds of practices, it affects everything. In many nations of Native Americans, in North America, you see a lot of problems caused by this generational trauma, and the healing needs to occur. Same thing in Hawaii, and same thing in Aboriginal Australia, where they're talking about this. It's all over the planet. This comes down to us learning to function in a unified way at a very different level. Not, okay, up to this moment in history, people still felt like they could get away with doing these things because they didn't see how it was going to affect them. There's no escaping this anymore. It's turning into an inescapable reality that's affecting people all over the planet. And some of these situations are things as simple as we can't understand why autism, for instance, has skyrocketed. We can't understand why cancer, for instance, has skyrocketed. We can't understand why heart problems are one of the main leading causes of death around the world. It's because our hearts are being, there's two sides of this. Some it's because our hearts are being broken. Some it's because that heart center is not activated. And so those people who don't have their heart center activated, aren't living from a place of spirit, are unfortunately causing an extraordinary amount of trauma in the world because they cannot empathize with their brothers and sisters. They don't see oneness. They don't understand how what they're doing to somebody in another place is affecting us. This is where we have to start to learn the sacred wisdom of oneness. That's what he's talking about, coming together in unity, conceiving of a person halfway around the world who you don't see and don't communicate with as being connected to you spiritually, because you're made of the same stardust, because you breathe the same oxygen, because you both share the same physiological makeup, essentially. You know, your DNA might look a little bit different under a microscope, but ultimately we are the same. We come from the same source. We live on the same borrowed resources. When we pass, we go back to the same place and we return all that we borrowed. There's unity in those understandings, right? I want to touch on just a couple more things before I close this out. We are the only species that's destroying the source of life, meaning Mother Earth, in the name of power, mineral resources, and ownership of land, using chemicals and methods of warfare that are doing irreversible damage, as Mother Earth is becoming tired and cannot sustain any more impacts of war. One thing that's really, like, I feel spirit wanting to come through and express this is in the Marshall Islands, there's one particular island that's completely uninhabitable now. Is it Bikini Atoll? I believe it is. Ugh. The amount of destruction that came from experimenting with this particular island as a place to practice warfare on, a place to practice dropping atomic bombs, actually resulted in so much cost of human life that it's incalculable at this point. The babies that were born in close proximity to the time that occurred were born so maimed, so genetically damaged that most of them were not capable of having life if they even survived their first days. And it's an impact that's felt throughout the islands. There's hardly anybody who's not aware of it. The people had to be relocated. And the generational trauma of something like that doesn't go away. The anger, the sorrow, the grief associated with those acts that were so completely without any care for human life at all. Those kinds of situations where our genetic code was actually altered to the point of irreparable damage are sitting with us, and they need to be healed. This is where we have to come in as our very authentic selves and understand what our role here at this now time is. That's what he's trying to point out. Chief Looking Horse was saying, you are here now on this planet at this time because God needs you. Creator needs you to stand in truth and protect what's sacred before any more people have to lose their life. It's unnecessary. But the only way that is going to be mitigated is if we respond to that call. I call you on account of the Most High. I call to you, call to action. You may not call yourself a light worker because you don't identify with that terminology. But if you stand for what is real and true and good in this world, God thanks you on account of his creations. Mother Earth thanks you on account of all that she sustains. She's alive. She's not just a dead planet. And she was created for us, to sustain us. So don't hurt your mother is the call to action. Find a way to protect her, whether that's planting a tree or thinking about how the plastics that you consume are polluting, thinking about ways to avoid consuming fossil fuels if you can. These are the things that we have to be compelled towards right now. The time is now. We're out of time to keep pretending like it's not happening and closing our eyes to it, okay? I'm going to say the ending here. I'm going to repeat it just one more time because this is all about Kuleana, which is my privilege and my responsibility and my joy to do this for my brothers and sisters, for the Creator who sent me to activate the light in all the light workers, especially the ones who don't know they're light workers yet. I'm calling to you. This is Chief Looking Horse's words. You alone and only you can make this crucial choice to walk in honor or to dishonor your relatives. On your decision depends the fate of the entire world. Let that sink in. Don't glaze over that. You make a decision for you. You make a decision for the entire world to activate and be a channel for the light. Okay? Each of us is put here in this time, in this place, to personally decide the future of humankind. That's so powerful. To all my beloved brothers and sisters, do not underestimate the power of this moment, the power that is in you to act, to create the peace, to create the love and joy that this world needs, to give that gift. The world needs you now to come into that fullness of spirit. And I love this question. Did you think the Creator would create unnecessary people in a time of such terrible danger? Your life is important. What you do today matters. The future of human existence is now hinging on these decisions that you make. Do not push that responsibility to anybody else. The Hawaiian word is kuleana. Kuleana is your right to live based on your responsibility, based on it's not just your responsibility, this is your privilege. Your right to live on this planet in this now time is based on your kuleana. What are you doing to help your brothers and sisters? What is your gift to the world today? This is what Spirit is like coming through so strong in me right now to speak out this message to the world. Know that you yourself are essential to this world. Essential. Your life matters. You are needed badly. Understand both the blessing and the burden of that. That's kuleana. The blessing and the burden. Your responsibility might feel like a burden, but it's your privilege because you have been sustained up to this moment in your life so that you could turn the favor around, right? You yourself are desperately needed to save the soul of this world. Did you think you were put here for something less? That's the question. In a sacred hoop of life, there's no beginning and no ending. That's how it's supposed to be. Okay? We are sustaining the continuity of that. If you look at the Native Americans of the Southwest, the Sonoran Desert primarily, you'll see these hoop dances that are just absolutely magnificent, and there's wisdom in that. Look into these things. Look to the native wisdom, because that is what is going to sustain our people on this planet right now. I love all of my relatives, those who came to Turtle Island from elsewhere, and those who were there, Indigenous as well. I come from a mixed background, so it has been part of my resolution with my spirit to understand that my ancestors were attacking my ancestors. And so there's this blending there, but both of them are needed to bring this forward, our culmination of humanity. Okay? My European ancestry carried fire. That's something that other nations of the world, other ancestral lineages never did. It's witnessed in a lot of places, that fire that is carried by the peoples of European ancestry. But there's an importance with my Native American ancestry too, which is to protect the earth and to keep that sacred and holy. And there has to be a balance. If you look into the prophecies, namely the Hopi prophecies, if you go deep backwards, into what was happening there and what has been allowed to come to light for these days, right now, you will know what I'm talking about. And the peoples of the African nations were given command over waters to protect the waters. And of the Asian areas, if that part of the world, they're given command over protecting the air. And you will see that also. The influence that Asian peoples have had over things such as communications, satellites, cellular. This is very deep, and I don't want to go incredibly deep into this, but I'm saying all of the nations have to come together right now. Each one was given a very specific task. And until we come together to honor those gifts and those responsibilities, those kuleana, we will not be able to protect our planet because we don't understand how all of us are supposed to be coming together to unite and bring it into wholeness so that that web of life can stay locked tight. And because right now the unraveling is happening because we don't understand our connections. So I really just want to say a really huge thank you to Chief Arvol Looking Horse. I'll show you one more time so you know who he is. Go look this man up. This is only one of the teachings that he has shared. His gift to this planet has been immeasurable in the days we are facing coming forward. And I want to close out with the Native American 10 Commandments just to give you a deeper understanding. All right. Number 1, treat the earth and all that dwell thereon with respect. Number 2, remain close to the Great Spirit. Number 3, show great respect for your fellow beings. Number 4, work together for the benefit of all humankind. Number 5, give assistance and kindness wherever needed. Number 6, do what you know to be right. Number 7, look after the well-being of mind and body. Number 8, dedicate a share of your efforts to the greater good. Number 9, be truthful and honest at all times. Number 10, take full responsibility for your actions. I implore you to activate that which you know is the gift inside you and find a way to give that gift to someone who needs it. Because I assure you, the gift is in you and there are others who need it very much. The time is upon us and there's no more time to waste. I said it before and I have to say it again because I think that people aren't taking this seriously. You must activate inside of you the part of you that may have been put to sleep by you or others, quieting your song, your gift to the world. Your energy and your light is required. This is what Spirit keeps coming and telling me to come here to share with you. Your life is so important. And I want you to see that in you and then turn around and show those who need to hear it from you the same thing. Wake it up in everybody. Everybody needs to come to awareness and fast. I thank you so much. I really appreciate you for coming here and being with me and listening to this message and sharing it out because the world needs to hear this. I implore you to do what you can to protect what is sacred, including yourself, your brothers and sisters, your Mother Earth, all that exists around you. Acknowledge it and the beauty of it and the gift that it is. Thank you again for coming and being here in this now moment. I leave you with this prayer. Thank you, Great Spirit, for this moment that you've brought us all to come together to awaken the gift of beauty and walk in a beauty way. Beauty within, beauty without, beauty above, below, behind, in front, and to the sides. Beauty all around us. May we walk in a beauty way that honors all life on this planet. And may we all awaken and arise to the potential that you've put inside of our spirit. We thank you, Creator. Aho. Join us next time when we all come together to uplift, enlighten, and ascend. Bye now.